There's the old adage, in unity there is strength. So when schools affiliate or align themselves with a cause and see the mission and the purpose of MFIS as one they can identify with, they join up. And we are stronger when we are one and speak with one voice.
The Manitoba Federation of Independent Schools is an organization created by the independent schools so that they have a single voice for the 59 schools at present in the province, and it gives a voice to them to government.
We're not a school board, so we're an organization of independent schools. And so that our goal is to safeguard the independence of the schools, to safeguard the funding for the independence of those schools, but our role is not to be a school division.
The benefit is that government listens. They listen because they understand that when MFIS is at the table, it represents 14,000 students and the families and the voters that are connected to that.
MFIS has been important to me because it has lobbied successfully for direct provincial government funding for independent schools.
As president of MFIS, one of the things that we accomplished, and I'm very proud of it, is that we negotiated the first fair funding agreement with the provincial government for the independent schools.
The whole question of funding for independent schools in Manitoba, it was a long-standing issue where in Manitoba independent schools had not been fairly funded. So that's sort of how the negotiations unfolded, was exactly what would that amount be for all independent schools. And the province had demands too, because it wasn't prepared to just give money away without something in return that it saw as essential to a good agreement.
Joe Stengel was absolutely instrumental in the formation of the Manitoba Federation of Independent Schools.
Joe Stengel, good man. And what I appreciated about Joe Stengel, his fervor, his desire, his strength to have this organization be successful.
Joe had no charisma at all. Sorry, Joe. But he was a driver, and if you wanted things done, Joe was the guy that was going to get them done.
Without his energy and his drive, his ability to communicate well, there definitely would not be funding for the schools at this point or negotiated at that time.
One thing that I can always think about with Joe was Joe never took no for an answer. Joe was both politically involved, Joe was well connected in government, Joe could get to the best people and the right people to get the answers to things that were needed. And when he asked me to be president, I couldn't say no.
He had a big job. He had to convince a large number of faith groups to cooperate, to set aside their differences and to form a unified front so that they would have a voice that represented many that would actually be listened to and heard.
People did not line up to join this organization. They had to be sold on the organization. And the Catholics were already organized, but he made some contacts with the Mennonite community. He made some contacts with the Jewish community. And over a period of time, Balmoral Hall, where we are today, St. John's Ravenscourt, etc., and brought them into the fold. And that wasn't done by calling a meeting. It was done over a number of years in terms of bringing these people together.
I would say that we owe a debt of gratitude to two men who have gone, Joe Stengel and Ellen Judd. They were the drivers of the cause, and they inspired me. And no less so men like Frank Vitkovich and Don Brock and Bill Gordemaker and his father-in-law, Jerry Kuick, who was a long-time director. These men were so committed to the cause. We owe them a debt of gratitude. And I would say to those who are still living, well done, your works follow you.
We should recall that the Manitoba Federation of Independent Schools is not populated simply by faith-based schools. Not all of them are faith-based. Many are not.
Well, I think it was just a question of the government never has enough money to do all the things that it would like to do. I suppose there was an attitude in the government that the public school system is there, and if you can't afford to run your own schools by yourself, then send your kids to the public school system, completely disregarding the importance of the faith element of the education of our independent schools we're bringing to our own communities.
It's absolutely necessary from our faith point of view that we should consider religion as one and not divided in religion in certain portions of our life and religion in another portion of life. Religion is one, and it should be diffused throughout all our actions. You cannot separate it.
Well, I think it's important for education and faith, certainly in faith-based schools, to merge. We're not two people. We're the human being is one, and the human being, we believe, is also a spiritual being. And so there isn't learning science and math and English, and then this part is learning faith. That faith informs our learning, and our learning informs our faith.
So what the province was prepared to do was to arrive at a sum, and included would be then expectations that the independent schools had to meet certain requirements, such as teaching the Manitoba curriculum, arriving at a number of days of instruction that would be comparable to the public schools, whether that was in time on task or number of days in the year. They had to have certified Manitoba teachers, parent involvement through elected boards as opposed to merely appointed boards.
Government funding in Manitoba for independent schools helps support parental choice. And it's only through the fact that parents who send their children to independent school pay taxes, and they have that right in order for some of those funds in order to go for their children's education. By us receiving partial funds from the province of Manitoba, it allows for a larger percentage of students from a variety of or lower income brackets in order to attend independent schools.
Our students experience a richer educational experience because the schools have those funding dollars to help them go past the basics, go past just the fundamental principles, but they actually are able to explore other areas of life, which gives them a diverse and a well-rounded character, personality, and ability.
There would not be the sports programs. There certainly wouldn't probably be the number of options that can be offered at the independent high school.
The funding allows our students to experience those things that will help them to have an international perspective in the future, those things that will help them to broaden their scope beyond themselves, so that I'm not just thinking about me and my group and what we like to do, but I'm seeing that other groups of students in other places have different perspectives and how that affects their life.
The benefit is that that they see that we can work together for the benefit of the children, because that is really the issue. The children need to be educated just as much as the children from public schools. So the children of the independent-based schools, they should be educated in the same manner, and they should be funded that way. And so if we come to the government united, from different philosophies, but united in that desire that the children should be educated and funded, then I think that's the real success of the MFIS.
It's interesting that I went to public school from K to 8 and switched over to independent school for high school. So I have a bit of a sense of the differences, and what I do find is that there was very much a sense of closeness. My teachers in the independent school were much closer to the students, had more involvement in their activities, more involvement in their day-to-day things, as opposed to public school, where there was very much a distance between the two.
Another thing that we should understand about the role of independent schools and the role of the Federation is that it's more than just an advocacy body. It also brought the schools together from the different religious and cultural disciplines, and they began to understand that they had all the same kinds of problems.
I don't think we've ever questioned our ability to come together and work well. It just has always been that way ever since I think it was in the early 70s when MAEE morphed into MFIS, and the leaders of the other faith communities and of the non-denominational schools became members of MFIS, and I think we've always respected each other's positions and have been able to find common ground and work together. And it's been wonderful to see how leadership has rotated almost naturally amongst the various groups.
If you took a question like, why does the MFIS even exist, and you switched the question to what would happen if there was no MFIS, it might give a different perspective in terms of the validity of the organization. If there was no Manitoba Federation of Independent Schools, then every school would have to speak independently to itself, to government. And government would have to connect all 50-some schools independently. One can foresee that there would likely be a breakdown in communications. One could foresee that funding issues would not be so easily negotiated or adjusted or talked about. As a matter of fact, most requirements would probably break down in terms of the fact that there's no one person to represent 59 voices. And so you would be left all alone as a small community to do all that work that we now do together.
Yes, the work of the MFIS that has come up with one of the best funding formulas in Canada for its schools has paid many, many dividends for its students, for the parents, for the teachers teaching in those schools, and I would say be very thankful for what the MFIS and its directors and its executive has done on your behalf.
I can't speak highly enough about the sense of community, the sense of belonging, the sense that we've invested just as much in the school as they've invested in us, and so that becomes the prime motivator as a parent. Do they care about our kids as much as we care about our kids? Do they value them as much as we value them? And when I can say, yes, they do, I sleep at night well, knowing that I made the right choice for my child.
Well, I'd like to, first of all, thank the organization that they have allowed me to be part of it. They had the desire and the determination to do what was best for the children in Manitoba.
When I think back of my involvement with Joe Stangl and Martin Buchbold and John Doohan Voss and Frank Svitkovich and others representing different communities, I'm better for that relationship.
The 40th anniversary of MFIS is upcoming. First of all, I'd hope they invite me. Because I'd love to be there and renew some old acquaintances. I mean, I didn't go to battle with all those guys for nothing. But more than that, I'd like to say congratulations. I think MFIS is a really excellent organization that's providing good education and good choice for the children of Manitoba, and I'm really proud to have had a hand in helping them be sustainable. So congratulations and best wishes, and hopefully we'll all be around in another 40 years.
I'm very proud to be a member of the board of MFIS and serve with so many talented and dedicated people. I've learned so much about independent education in Manitoba that coming from the Catholic background, I have a much more diverse view now of the different faith communities, and I've come to realize that all of these communities are working so hard on behalf of the parents that they serve, and they're very dedicated. And Manitoba is a much better place, a much stronger place, and we're training the future leaders of our province.
From my own personal perspective, I certainly would like to thank those pioneers who in the 60s and especially in the 70s and 80s conceived of MFIS and were successful in lobbying the government and getting public support for financial aid to independent schools.
On the occasion of the MFIS 40th anniversary, I would just like to express that it's a real privilege for me to serve, and I have such a great appreciation for the many talented and insightful educators that I've encountered while I've been associated with the organization. I have learned so much from all of them and feel that I have developed as a professional, as an educator, and as a person because of their input.